Very good. Welcome to Basement Justice Episode 2. I'm Miss Wanda, and today we will be continuing our discussion with Gary Chambers' attorney, Stephen L. Richards, as we ask Counselor Richards today how the U.S. Constitution, Miss Gary Chambers in Cook County, and does the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, right to face your accuser, mean only the right to look at your accuser, the person who is actually accusing you of that crime? Mr. Richards, before I turn it over to you, I just want to give a quick disclosure and say that the purpose for even recording these videos is to bring closure and peace to all of the victims that have been harmed during this crime. We want to bring some closure and set the record straight. Attorney Richards, can you please speak to me about how and where do you think things went wrong with Mr. Chambers' case?
Well, I think in Mr. Chambers' case, it was very unusual because what happened was this was an armed robbery. Normally, in every armed robbery, the victim will testify, the victim will identify the perpetrator if he or she can, and then the victim will be asked questions in court to see if the identification is true or false, because no one wants the wrong person to be convicted. And mistaken identity is almost the major source of wrongful convictions in this country. Now, one of the vehicles we have in a normal case is if somebody testifies, then there's cross-examination. The other side gets to ask questions, get answers, and establish whether the victim is telling the truth, which may be the case, or not only whether the victim is sincere, but whether the victim is mistaken. Because people who are truthful are not necessarily accurate. Mm-hmm. They can be truthful and sincere, but they can get it wrong. And sometimes, particularly as in Gary's case, they may be influenced by the police who may be looking to get the person they think is the wrongdoer convicted and may overstep the line in terms of suggesting certain things. Mm-hmm. This may have happened in Gary's case, and this is one of the things we're going to look into as we proceed further and investigate his case and try and exonerate him. Our position is that Gary is absolutely innocent. Mm-hmm. And the remarkable thing about this case was that the victim of the armed robbery did testify, and she did identify certain people, but she gave no account of what happened. And this is, again, a very unusual thing. The police officers sort of filled in the gaps by claiming that they had seen the actual robbery. Our position is that they did not, and we'll be seeking to investigate this as we proceed with petitions and with actions on Gary's behalf. Everyone in this case needs closure. Gary needs closure because he needs to be exonerated. The victim needs closure because she needs to know that the persons who actually did it have been convicted, mm-hmm. and the wrong persons have not been convicted. And that's our goal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's a very good first step to take. Can you tell me a little bit more about the process?
Sure. Gary is in a very unusual situation, or maybe more usual. He was wrongfully convicted many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. He was sent to prison. He was released. He led a valid, productive life and has led it for many years, working and raising a family. But he's always been stuck with this wrongful conviction from the early 90s. Now, if he had been in prison, there's vehicles where you can file an appeal or a post-conviction petition and try to become exonerated that way. Mm-hmm. But since he's no longer in prison, the only way you can do this is through what's called a 21401 petition, mm-hmm. where in any case, criminal or civil, we go to the judge and we say something wrong has happened. There's something wrong with the judgment, wrong with the conviction, because we have new evidence which shows that it was false. And in this case, we do believe we have new evidence, and we'll be presenting that in court.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's interesting. I guess even though we need new evidence, I think it's worth to look at the old evidence too. Kind of how we just discussed. She never even took the stand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she never took the stand. Other factors were that Gary had a public defender. Mm-hmm. Public defenders can be good or bad, but they certainly can be bad in certain instances. Mm-hmm. It was a bench trial, so there was no jury present. And the key detail was that the victim was not giving her account of the events. For some reason, she was shielded from that because she simply identified people, did not give an account, was not cross-examined, and the police officers filled in the gaps. Our position is that they filled in the gaps wrongfully, that they were not in fact witnesses. Because what happened was, in this instance, Gary came upon someone who was being robbed. He chased the robbers, and he was mistaken for a robber himself. But he was not. He was innocent, and is innocent.
Very good, very good. I think you pretty much summed it up, because that's exactly how it happened. You know, and to think that you're going to save someone, you know, or at least attempt to save someone's life and be a good citizen. It kind of changes the way you think about being a good citizen, but not in his case, because he hasn't ever been involved in any other criminal activity, any other police involvement. So it's kind of,
and he was not involved in this criminal activity either. He was wrongfully convicted.
Exactly.
So I think Gary's case is in some cases a model case, because it's somebody wrongfully convicted who made something of himself and now just wants to go back and take away that one wrongful thing that happened to him. So that he can get closure, the victim can get closure, and the system will be vindicated, and he will be vindicated.
Very good, very good. I thank you for coming in and speaking with me today about.
Well, it was very nice to speak, and we'll speak further in the future as the case goes forward.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who's tuning in right now. For taking a look and checking out what's going on with Mr. Chambers. I hope that we have your support.